Hey, Sens fans, welcome to episode 2 of our Sens Weekly Wrap-up series. We're starting things off by entering the Michael Andlauer era. Very exciting. I'm here with Bennett today. So, Bennett, off the top, let's just talk about Michael Andlauer, now officially handed the keys to the castle. He is Ottawa's new owner. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I mean, this sale process started a year ago. It was 3 months ago or something that Andlauer was announced as the winner of that process, and it's taken all of that time for the NHL Board of Governors to give its stamp of approval, for all of the legal and financial, mechanisms to be discharged, and now we're here. He has the keys, as it were, and I think that it's such a great contrast, I think, from the previous era of ownership. I mean, Melnick owns the team for something like 20 years. I believe it was it 2003 that he bought the team. It's been a good 2 decades, and I think the contrast in the styles of these two owners already is very stark. I mean, Melnick, when he bought the team, he brought in like the Eagles to do this big concert. There's this big hullabaloo. It was all very over the top and in your face, and kind of like could see a lot of ego in that like approach. And well, everyone was just over the moon at the time. I mean, obviously, I was like a child at the time, but everyone was over the moon that the team was staying and that the team had a new ownership and things were going forward. But like, I think with the benefit of hindsight, we can look back and see a person who wanted to be at the center of everything in a way that boded poorly for the team going forward. And when you contrast that to Andlauer and the way that he's conducted himself throughout this entire process, including and up to the big press conference, it's so refreshing to see someone who comes across as like relatively humble. You reiterated at one point that he's just a custodian of his team, that the fans, that the people of the Ottawa Gatineau region are the true owners of this team. It's just like you couldn't imagine Meldick saying something like that. And it's just great to he's hitting all of the right notes so far. He obviously has a great group of people advising him, and he himself seems to just have like an innate way of hitting the right notes in these statements. Bringing back Cyril Leader as CEO of the team is obviously a nice touch. Repairing some of those bridges that have been burned by the previous ownership. It's just all been really great stuff to see, and I just love the way that he has conducted himself. I don't like the fact that he was mentioning that he wasn't too fussed about all of the celebrity, bids that he was up against. He's saying all along that Daniel Alfredson was his celebrity, and that he knew that that was the guy he wanted in his corner more than Ryan Reynolds or The Weekend or whoever. And just stuff like that. It's like you feel like he really gets it. And obviously, I mean, like 20 years from now, we could be talking about, oh, you could only see Andlauer was such a whatever. But like, I truly feel that like the tone so far and everything that he's saying is sort of like exactly what we want to hear right now.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, bringing Cyril Leader back into the fold, obviously big deal. I think a lot of Sens fans still felt like Cyril Leader was kind of done dirty when he was pushed out of the organization. Alfie likely coming back into the fold is great. You couldn't ask to bring a better person back into the team. I think every single Sens fan would agree that having Alfie in the organization is just it was like destiny, and you're just like, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? And now finally it looks like it will happen. Although Alfie today did say he's here today for support Michael, but that they'll have those conversations and see where it goes. The other interesting thing that our noted friends at Post Media informed us about, kind of a little slide in their latest article, was that Steve Stais, it seems it's I don't know when, but it seems likely that he'll come in as the president of hockey operations for the Sens, and that's really interesting. He did say that this is contingent on like the dust settling and things. It's not going to be sudden. And I believe there was another report that came out that Steve Stais is dealing with some personal family stuff. So I imagine that once things kind of get back to a regular routine for him, and the dust settles in Ottawa, that Steos might come in as the president of hockey ops, which would be quite interesting. He's got a good track record. A lot of people like and respect him in the industry, and he's on his way up. So that's kind of cool. Uh, but yeah, on that note, like you were mentioning, he seems really humble. He went up to the mic and, you know, he was kind of speechless, honestly, and he was excited that his employees were there to witness, him getting to go and talk about the team. He talks about being between Toronto and Montreal and how the Sens are underappreciated and understated and all that, and kind of taking that little brother approach where it's like, we're gonna take on our brothers, our big brothers, and we're gonna win, and everyone's like, yeah, rally behind. Anyway, so he's just taking a good approach to this, and I think everything he was saying was hitting the nail on the head, and you could see it on social media. A lot of Sens fans were just eating up every word, and I think there's just a lot of excitement. It seems like a fresh slate in Ottawa. uh, I don't know, you couldn't really ask for anyone better, so I'm glad that things worked out the way they did, and that's my piece on that.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and I said all along from the start of this process that I wanted, we needed somebody to come in who was just no nonsense, just like nose to the grindstone, like doesn't want to be part of the limelight, just wants to be, you know, work behind the scenes, be quiet, effective, and that was the way that he conducted himself during the bidding process. I think it's no surprise that he was successful, given that we know how this league likes to operate, and that would be music to their ears after all the years of circus that Sentence fans in Ottawa has gone through near the tail end of the previous era. And I think what we all need is like a little bit of quiet, just stability, hard work, just less flash, more substance.
I would be willing to bet all of my savings that we will not have a story come out that Michael Andlauer got in a fight with a yacht captain.
Yes, yeah, I think we can bet pretty safely on that.
So after this quick break, we're going to take a look at Josh Norris and what's going on with that shoulder again. And we're going to take a look at the AHL signings of Egor Sokolov and Djibril Touré. Hopefully, pronounced that correctly. So we'll see you after the break. Hey, Sens fans, we're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw 5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So, football's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the app now and sign up with code THPN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. That's code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, licensed partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Welcome back, everyone. We are now going to talk about a little bit of interesting news now. Josh Norris. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. As everyone knows, he's had shoulder issues the last couple of years, and it's really put people off. Will he return to scoring the 35 plus goals that he did a couple seasons ago? Is he going to be just injury prone for the rest of his career? There's a lot of questions being thrown around. Some people are debating whether he should even take faceoffs anymore, which has been an interesting debate. But yeah, the other day, it came out that he kind of tweaked his shoulder and that he would be ready if the regular season started in a few days. But for now, they were going to be very cautious, and he was going to wear a yellow non-contact jersey and all that. Josh Norris himself has kind of tried to diminish and downplay the the little tweak, the injury, I guess. And that's not to say that it's not just a tweak, but it's something that I think could be a larger question over Josh Norris's future. But for the meantime, Bennett, what do you make of the news of him kind of tweaking something before the season's even begun?
Yeah, I think it's extremely concerning. I think that this is a player who played 66 games in the 21-22 season and played 8 in the last season. People have been talking a lot about, oh, what does this mean? Like, is his career going to be, are injuries going to be a part of his career the whole time? I think it's clear that the answer to that is yes. I mean, every season we're told that Josh Norris is going to be back healthy. Every season there's a setback or a problem. Every year we're told that it's fixed. Every year we're told that actually it's not fixed and he's going to miss more time. Uh, I think that we have to really seriously consider the prospect that Josh Norris will not be a part of this team's core because of his inability to stay healthy, which really sucks because I think he's a really great guy. I think that he really brings a lot of personality and character to the team. I think that in the 21-22 season he showed a lot of what he can be as a player, scoring 35 goals, having 55 points, even though his campaign was cut short. I think that, but I don't think we can take that to the bank anymore because he hasn't been here, and the season hasn't even started yet, and we were told a month ago that his shoulder was fixed now for sure, for realsies, guys, we promise. And he hasn't even made it out of training camp without picking up a knock. I think we need to be prepared to not really have Norris with this team much this season, which I think we can talk about in a later episode what that means for this Senators forward core, but it's not good. Oh, you're on mute.
My apologies. I was looking up some Norris stats.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one approach people are taking. For me, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'd like to think that it's just his body, getting back into game shape, just trying to take those hits again. He did mention after their first practice that he started to do a little bit of contact drills and stuff, and he felt like it was great and he was fine. And that's great. And I hope it stays that way. Um, you never know. And I really hope he doesn't become an injury prone player. It would just be really sad to see a player with his potential end up on the LTIR for, however long in his career. I just don't want that for him. It seems like he's really well loved in the locker room. Uh, he's a core player when it comes to like chemistry, just the vibe of the locker room, the cohesiveness. And so I really hope he does stay a core player. I think it will help that Tim Stützle has pretty well established himself as the 1C in Norris's absence last season. So having Norris, maybe play, I don't want to say sheltered minutes, but playing behind Stützle in the lineup might potentially help, especially if he's on a line with another player who could maybe take some of the faceoffs. I don't think that he should be taken off faceoffs completely because he's a guy who has always been a good faceoff taker in his career. So I think that would be detrimental to the Sens, but it's something to consider. So my take is I really hope it's just minor. I really hope they fixed him. I hope he's fixed and he's ready to go. But it is a little concerning, and I'm just hoping that it's just minor. It stays minor, and he can get through one season, baby, 82 games plus a little more, maybe. Not gonna, get a little too excited, but maybe more. And we'll see what happens. But moving on to the next player, Ottawa also managed to sign one of their last remaining RFAs, Egor Sokolov, to a 1-year deal. It is a two-way contract, so he's paid much less in the AHL than he is in the NHL this coming season. However, he still will have to go on waivers, so that is something to note. Now, Sokolov only played 5 games last season. He had a goal and an assist, but he's 23. He provides some depth. He's a big boy, and Bennett. How much do you really think he's going to play this season?
It depends. I mean, the Sens forward core is looking a little thin, so I think there will be opportunities for players like him to perhaps get an audition in a third or fourth line role. I think that having people like Sokolov waiting in the wings to seize those opportunities if we lose people to injury or bad form or whatever the case may be is always a benefit. And so I'm never going to complain about having young players within the organization ready to be thrown into the mixer if the opportunity arises. I mean, it only takes, one good season for a player to seize that opportunity and establish themselves. So I don't want to write anybody off and say that it's that they can't do anything for this team. That being said, Sokolov has shown extremely little in his brief appearances with the Senators so far. I mean, 13 games played. It's a very small sample size, but 2 points from a guy who is touted as a goal scorer with a big shot and all of this stuff. It's not really much to write home about. I think in terms of the AHL level, he has been fine. Last season he had like 50 points in 64 games. That's pretty good. Like I'm not gonna say that's bad. Like this past season he had 59 points, 21 goals, 38 assists. Again, it's respectable stuff for the AHL. I think that there's been question marks in particular, I believe, about his skating ability. And, if you don't have that, you don't have anything in the NHL. And I think that guys who have those persistent question marks, unless if they fix them very quickly, they're never going to hack it at the NHL level. So I think it's always good to have players like him available to throw in the lineup, give them their shot, see if they can, put some pressure on some established guys or take a roster spot for themselves. But based on what he's shown for the Senators since we drafted him a couple of years ago, I won't be holding my breath.
Fair enough. All right, we'll move to the last bit of news that we want to touch on, and the Ottawa Senators signed Djibril Touré to a 3-year entry-level contract. This is a guy who was on an amateur tryout with the Ottawa Senators. He played in the rookie tournament and had a big scrap against the Habs in the last game of the prospect on prospect tournament. So he's a big boy. He's a right-hand defenseman who's 6'7". He's 20 years old. I believe this past draft was the last draft that he was eligible to be taken in, and of course now the Sens signed him. He was a free agent, so it'll be interesting to see how he does in Belleville this year. From what I've read, he seems to be a guy who it really competes hard, which, as we know, the Sens, DJ Smith, Pierre Dorion, they love those guys who compete, right? It's all about compete, work ethic. And for his size, apparently he's an excellent skater, which, of course, whenever you see a guy who is, over 6'5", it's always like, okay, how's their skating? And so to have him be a guy who's good at skating, an aggressive player, I read a scouting report that he needs to make sure that he doesn't cross the line sometimes because there's penalties that are he gets that are aggression that's like warranted and coaches won't be upset about, but then there's other ones that are frustrating. So interesting player. He only played 1 season in the OHL and he had 16 points in 57 games for the Wolves, 1 assist in 4 playoff games. Not a big offensive guy, but all that said, Bennett, do you have any thoughts on Touré and maybe what he could provide Belleville this season?
Yeah, I think that the Sens D prospect pipeline has thinned out a little bit in recent years. I mean, obviously we've seen Sanderson, graduate to the team. We've seen Bernard Docker and Lassie Thompson have short stints with the team, although like neither of them have truly established themselves at the NHL level yet. So it's always good to have young blood in the organization, especially down in Belleville, where they can develop and perhaps grow their game even further. He's 20 years old. It's good old boy from Montreal. 3-year ELC is great. Gives him an opportunity to grow and develop some more, and it's low commitment for the team if that's not the case. Yeah, I think it's always good to be keeping an eye out for opportunities to sign young players with potential upside like that, because the price never goes down. It's if you have, young prospects, guys who can take a step in your organization, it's always cheaper and better for your culture to have that than to have to go out and acquire them after they've already, blown up.
And I think it's an interesting move that he got signed, after having that big scrap with the Habs
Right.
prospect, because, you look at some of the moves within the division, you see Lucic get added to Boston, Reeves get added to Toronto, Jack Eye times two, because, the brother is now with the Habs organization. So having Arbor and Florian in Montreal, like, I think the Sens were like, yeah, okay, we have Zach McEwen signed to 3 years, but getting another guy in the organization who you could potentially call up and potentially have to be a scrapper with some of those guys on your rivals teams, I can see why that might have appealed to them. So it's an interesting signing. I hope he ends up just turning out to be maybe a seventh defenseman who you can bring in, maybe provide a bit of defensive stability. Oh my gosh, it's been a week, and we'll just see where it goes. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt, like you said, to get some extra depth in Belleville, especially when Ottawa doesn't have the deepest prospect cupboards anymore. So, um, yeah. Anything, yeah, you want to add, Bennett, before we sign off for the night?
No, other than just with this, it's a new era of good vibes for the Ottawa Senators. We talked before when the sale, when the when Andlauer was selected as the winning bidder, that this spells great things for the Senators going forward. And I think that now that we've started to see how he conducts himself in ownership, I think that it's all good stuff, and I'm looking forward to where the season could take us.
Awesome. Well, on that note, thank you everybody for listening today. Really appreciate it. Um, Good things ahead for us here at the Senstennial. We're really excited for this season. So if we don't see you at the Sens game against the Leafs preseason game on Sunday, I'll be there. Don't see you there, then we'll see you on the next show. And thank you so much again for watching. You can find us on all your social media platforms at the Senstennial or Senstennial Podcast. And yeah, thank you again. Go Sens, go. Welcome to your Michael Andlauer years.
See you guys.